Question number 3, Katrina Shanks.
To the Minister of Justice. What steps is the government taking to support victims of sexual violence?
Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, the government is committed to providing better support for victims of crime, including all victims of sexual violence. As a result of the Law Commission's recent review of the Evidence Act, I will shortly be introducing proposals to improve the way some evidence is dealt with in these cases. If the defence wants to raise issues about a complainant's previous sexual history, they will need to give notice before trial. In addition, child witnesses under the age of 18 will be able to give evidence by video recording, which can be challenged in trial. They will be able to have a support person sitting nearby when they give evidence. There is a range of support services for sexual violence victims across government. They include specialist victim support, no real limitation period on the making of a complaint, automatic name suppression in criminal proceedings, and the court is closed when the victims give evidence. Victims can give evidence behind a screen. They're allowed a support person with them in court while giving evidence, and there's a range of counselling and financial support through the Ministry of Justice, ACC support or MSD, including funding of agencies such as Doctors for Sexual Abuse Care, Auckland Sexual Helpline and Wellington Rape Crisis Centre. The Victim of Crime Reform Bill, which is awaiting its second reading, will also introduce a new Victims Code.
Supplementary question, Katrina Shanks.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. What criminal processes exist to deal with sexual violence offences?
Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, in New Zealand we have a common law justice system based on democratic principles of fairness. Some European and former communist countries have a different system, the inquisitorial method of criminal justice, which effectively means that any accused person has to prove their innocence. Accused persons are examined directly by judges trained in the inquisitorial method of examination. There is limited ability to challenge evidence presented to the judge. In the common law method, prosecution and defence each present their evidence and arguments to the court and have the right to challenge each other's evidence. In 2012, the Law Commission published an issues paper and invited submissions on a range of pre-trial and trial processes, particularly to consider whether inquisitorial processes could be incorporated into our justice system for sexual offences. Some of the issues considered have been advanced, such as the child protection orders, greater use of restorative justice to deal with sexual violence offences, protection for child witnesses and requiring notice to be given if the defence intends to raise evidence of the complainant's prior sexual history.
Question.
Supplementary question, Katrina Shanks.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. What else is the government doing to help prevent sexual violence victimisation?
Honourable Judith Collins.
Well, Mr Speaker, prevention is obviously the key for progress in this matter. Sexual violence is obviously abhorrent, but it is also linked with alcohol and other drugs. The government's alcohol reform legislation comes into force on the 18th of December. From the 18th of December this year, it will be an offence to supply alcohol to a minor without parental consent. In addition, the government has passed the Psychoactive Substances Act to stop the sale of harmful party pills. The Ministry of Health funds a rape prevention program in schools called Body Safe Program that is currently run in many schools and teaches young people how to keep themselves safe from sexual violence and how to deal with a sexual attachment if it does happen. Earlier this year, Minister Bennett announced a major funding boost to assist victims of sexual violence through agencies such as the Auckland Sexual Abuse Help Foundation. In addition, ACC is redesigning its support, assessment and treatment services for sensitive claims to provide more responsive services to victims of sexual violence. Sadly, many victims of sexual violence are repeat victims, and part of the approach is to help victims keep safe to prevent re-victimisation. There is a good deal currently being done to deal with sexual violence in this community, and it's a real problem that affects old and young. But we need to help to continue to bring offenders to justice and to acknowledge that sexual violence is a crime and needs to be dealt with accordingly.
Question number 4, Honourable David Parker.